Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonavi Alugaba. I am the teacher of English language at Vision for Africa, Mukono, and your instructor today. We are going to be talking about narration. Narration comes from the word to narrate. It originates from the word to narrate, which means to tell a story or to reproduce the words someone spoke some time back. Now, there are two ways of reproducing the words of the speaker. You can reproduce the words of the speaker in two specific ways. One, you can reproduce the actual words of the speaker. In this we mean you can use the words that the speaker used to report to the third party. So this is where you use the actual words of the speaker. We shall find a simpler term ahead. Number two, you can give only the substance or gist of his speech in your own words. Here, you pick the substance from the speaker's words and you put those words in your words and you report. I want to repeat. There are two ways of reproducing the words of the speaker. One, you can reproduce the actual words of the speaker. You can say exactly the words that the speaker said, or you can give only the substance or the gist of the speaker or of his speech in your own words. You use your words to tell someone what someone else said. So in simpler terms, this is what you term as one, direct speech. The direct speech is when you pick the exact words of the speaker and you use them to report or to narrate. So here in direct speech, we don't add our words. The way the speaker said is the same way we report. Number two, we have the indirect speech. In the indirect speech, we pick the substance from the speaker's words and we use our words to retell or to tell the story to someone else. I want to repeat. In the indirect speech, we pick the substance from the speaker's words, and then we use our own words to report what the speaker said. Hope you understand. Direct speech, actual words. Indirect speech, we use our words to report what the speaker said. Now, let's look at the direct speech today. The direct speech, we said, is when you pick the actual words of the speaker. But what you have to know about direct speech is that it is a little bit complicated, most especially when it comes to punctuation. So for you to understand the punctuation of the direct speech very well, you must understand the parts of the direct speech. Now, direct speech sentences have got parts. Just as you know that all sentences must have verbs, the subject, and even the receiver of the action, which we normally term as the object of the sentence. Even the direct speech sentences must have types, rather parts. So we are going to look at these parts. Part number one, which is actually the most vital part, is what we call the actual words. Now this is where you bring the exact words of the speaker. Now, for you to be able to separate the actual words of the speaker from the rest of the sentence, you use the inverted commas. Some people like to call them quotation marks. So you put the words in the quotation marks to show the reader that the words that are in the quotation marks are not your words, but they are actually the words of the speaker that you are reporting about. Now, the other second part, which is also equally vital, is what we call the reporting verb. Now, the reporting verb is used to introduce the actual words. that verb that joins the actual words, that is used to join the actual words to the speaker, is what we call the reporting verb. It shows that the subject said these words. Now, there are very many reporting verbs that they use in direct speech sentences. They can be words like said, the boys said. They can be words like the girls commented. They can be words like the baby cried. So you put what the baby did in the quotation marks. They can be words like reported. There are very many words that are used to introduce the actual words, and those verbs are said to be reporting verbs. Now let's look at it extensively. If you looked at this example here, the boy said, "I am watching the game." Now if you looked at this sentence, you can see that this sentence has got the boy, who is actually the speaker. Then we have said, which is serving as the reporting verb. And then we have I am watching the game. These are the actual words that the boy said. So to show the reader that these words are not ours, we choose to put them in the quotation marks or the inverted commas. So you can see said is the reporting verb. The boy is the doer of the action. Then said is the reporting verb. And then the actual words that the boy said are I am watching football. So I am watching the game. So I am watching the game are the actual words. Then said becomes the reporting verb. Now, what you have to know is that if you begin with the subject of the sentence and then you bring the reporting verb, you have to immediately after the reporting verb put a comma. Now this comma helps you to separate the reporting verb from the actual words. Now the other thing that you have to pay attention to is that the first letter of the first word in the quotation marks is supposed to be capital. Like the way you're seeing that letter I in the sentence, I am watching the game. That I is capital. So if the first letter of the first word in the quotation marks must be capital as per a general rule. So you must observe that. Hope you understand very well. Said is the reporting verb, and then I am watching the game are the actual words. And actually, to separate them, you put them in the quotation marks. Let's go ahead. Now, I understand that the greatest challenge for children, before we reach the greatest challenge, let's first look at the important points about the direct speech. But these are the points that I'm just going to belabor, but I have already told you. I'm just going to belabor them. The direct speech is always placed within inverted commas. That one I've told you that you bring the actual words and you place them in the inverted commas. Number 2, the first word of the actual words begins with a capital letter. That one I've also told you that you all should always make sure that the first letter of the first word in the inverted commas is always capitalized. Then lastly, a comma is placed after the reporting verb to separate it from the rest of the sentence. That one I've also expounded on earlier. I've told you to separate the reporting verb from the rest of the sentence, you must use a comma. Now let's go ahead and punctuate the following. I understand the greatest challenge with the direct speech is the punctuation. Now, the punctuation is the greatest challenge that many children and many adults face when dealing with the direct speech. Now, I have given you a clue. This mother said to me, you put a comma to separate these words, to separate the actual words of the speaker from the rest of the sentence. So the reporting verb here is said, and mother said to me, stay indoors to avoid rains. Actually, if you wrote that stay with small s, you would be considered wrong, because I said always make sure that the first word in the quotation marks begins with the capital letter. And then it doesn't matter whether it is a proper noun or a common noun, whether it is a verb or an adjective. But as long as it is the first letter in the quotation marks, always make sure that it is initially capitalized. Now I want you to try out these numbers. Number 1, the boy said, I am 12 years. I expect you to place a comma immediately after the word said. Then you introduce the quotation marks, and then you place a full stop at the end of the sentence, and then you enclose the words of the speaker with a closing quotation. Then number 2 is also here. Chitra said, I have many recollections of my childhood. Raju said, are you going to buy a sweater? So I want you to try all those numbers. I've actually prepared more for you right here. The sports teacher said, a hockey match lasts for an hour and a half. And then number 5, he said to me, you may stay here. He says, what is he reading? I said to him, are you happy? Mother said, don't make so much noise. And lastly, the principal said to the peon, ring the bell. Now, I want you to try those numbers, but as you try them, always keep in the back of your mind the idea of identifying the parts of the direct speech sentences. That will help you to actually be able to punctuate your sentences very well. As a general concern, direct speech sentences are always poorly punctuated because people do not pay special attention to the parts of the direct speech sentences. You are lucky that right now you can easily identify the parts and you can use the idea to separate which words from the sentences. I want to say thank you for watching and subscribing to our channel. I also want to request you to continue downloading our courses, and then if you find any challenge, please feel free to drop a comment or to ask us. We are available for your assistance. Thank you. May the good Lord bless you and keep you safe.